Well, last year was an absolute bananas year. We almost went off the road 2 times. Our battery died. We had all kinds of problems, and I learned some things after owning this Mercedes-Benz that I have to winterize this car better than I've done before. I've gone to Facebook Marketplace. I've gone to Amazon. I've collected a bunch of parts. I've done some of the work myself, and I've done it all on a budget. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is now the car is more reliable and safer for the winter coming up. Life's too short to drive boring cars. First of all, we did a battery change last fall, and of course that then helped the reliability, because in the cold cranking hours, you know, when things are -20, -30, you got to make sure that you've got the cranking amps, you've got the good battery. And so we put in a new battery, but this year I made sure I did a battery test, I did a load test on it just to make sure that that battery was still good. I found these lug nuts actually on Amazon, which was a great find because I couldn't find them anywhere. I checked with the local dealer. They didn't have unique sizes. They had factory sizes more like this, but that doesn't help me because I also found a set of cheap wheels on Facebook Marketplace. These wheels are absolutely amazing, and the best thing is they're factory Mercedes-Benz wheels. Now there's only a drawback to that, is these aren't actually for a C300, which we're driving here. These are actually from an E-Class. So what does that mean? Well, I want to talk to you about how I changed these wheels, some of the nuances, the parts you needed, some of the tools, and what else I did to get my car safe for the winter of 25. So here's a collection of goodies that I actually found that I needed for this winterization. Of course, to change a set of wheels, you need a jack stand. For jack stand, I needed a small jack, of course. Make sure it's always safe. Never crawl under a vehicle without it properly secured. I needed a set of ratchets. Here I use a 1/2-inch drive. This one's a breaker bar to break off the old bolts because they were very, very tight. Also used the smaller ratchet to reassign, but then of course a torque wrench, which then I used, of course, with a long extension and this socket right here, which helped me reapply the new lug nuts. But the thing is, you need to apply a torque here of somewhere in that 85 to 95 pound-feet of torque. I usually go somewhere in that 90 pound-feet of torque, and that gets your lug nuts tight. Now remember, you always want to do star pattern. That's something I've researched and I wanted to express there. But also, not only in changing those wheels, I could not get away with the standard lug nuts. The standard lug nuts were shorter because they were a C-Class Mercedes. The wheels had a different offset on them. On top of that, I'll explain that for a second, but I also did an oil change. You use this great stuff, Liqui-Moly. You need about 6.5 liters of oil for this, or about 7 liters if you have the non-all-wheel drive. So the 4MATIC is about 6.5 liters of oil. You need an oil filter, the drain rings and all of the seal rings and the kit for that, and you're good to go. Again, remember, never do any of this without being safely jacked up and secure. I happen to suck it out the top, so I didn't even need to get underneath the vehicle to actually drain the oil. Some would argue that's not the right way to do it, but you know what? That's my car. Okay, so doing these wheels, of course, they're a factory style of wheel, E-Class, but it looks exactly like our old style. So what's nice about these wheels is that actually they bring out a little further. Because they're from an E-Class, they have an offset that pushes them out a little bit further. And that's a big reason why, in fact, that I wanted to go with something like this. The original wheels, if you look at them, they're actually pulled in too far. I feel like a bit of a gimp, you know, a little skinny Leroy there, because those wheels are a little in too far. And you know what? I plan, once we put the summer wheels back on, I'm probably going to put a set of wheel spacers and push them out a little bit. So instead of doing that, these ones actually happen to solve 2 problems. Number 1, it gets me on a set of winter tires and winter rims that are dedicated, but also 2, it gives me the offset to push the wheels out about 1/2 inch. Now the same bolt pattern applies, so the measurement between opposite bolts here is 5x112, which is pretty standard across most Mercedes-Benz. The center hub is pretty much the same. It's just the offset. It's the offset, which is the measurement between the base of the hub here and of course the center line of the wheel. And that measurement changes, and depending on the type of vehicle, not 2 rims are alike. So you got to make sure there's some compatibility there. You've got to do your research. I mean, there's a lot of options out there. So I scoured all over Amazon trying to find whatever I could. I knew I needed something longer than the factory studs. These are the original studs for the C300. As you'll notice, there's something particular about these you have to pay attention to. You'll notice that length is not very long. It's maybe 1 inch long or thereabouts. But these are the new ones. See the difference in length? Quite substantial. You gain probably about 5/8 of an inch in length on the new ones. You needed that because the offset of the wheels were such that you needed to get that much more penetration. They actually say when you turn your bolt in, when you initially catch your first thread, that you need to have at minimum, and again, check your own stats for your own safety. I'm not a certified mechanic, but I've done all this research. This is what I'm going by. 9.5 full turns, minimum. And then you torque it up to 90 pounds or whatever, foot-pounds of torque, whatever you have. There's another important feature. See these right here, you'll notice they have sort of a ball. It's called a ball base. See, they're sort of ball shaped. Here is another similar stud, but you'll notice it's a conical shape. Very, very important that you don't use something like this on these Mercedes-Benz. The Mercedes requires more of a ball type end on it like this, whereas this is from another vehicle that has more of a conical shape. When you're ordering these parts, it's very, very important that you buy the right part, because if you put these conical ones on a vehicle that requires this, you're not getting enough interfacial tension or connection. You're not getting that penetration. You're not getting that grab, and there's a high probability that that wheel could fall off. As a matter of fact, I heard of a person here already got their wheels changed. They drove, I think it was 4 or 5 kilometers away from the tire shop, and a wheel fell off. That actually happened here in the city. Very, very important to recognize. You've got to make sure that you're getting the right stud length. You can't go too long, because sometimes with these systems, of course, the electric brake systems are such that if you go too deep, you go through the hub, and it can be a bigger problem as well. So you want to make sure that you're going deep enough, but without going too far in. These parts here, I think I got them for something like 30 bucks for 20 of these. And to me, that's a huge win, but I needed it. And you've got to make sure, if you're buying aftermarket wheels or you're buying winter wheels or it's a different set of rims, some people just change the tires down here. You'll notice winter tires are very specific. They have all these very tight little sipes on them. Very, very tight. That helps you cut through the snow and ice. But you'll also notice winter tires right here, you have these little snowflake symbols on them. And there's another thing to look out for with winter tires. They're usually in a single direction. So pay special attention that they're pointed. There's usually sort of arrows. In this way, you can sort of see the turn, and there's an actual rotation marks on here. That's very important. Most winter tires are directional. So yeah, I can only swap front to back, front to back. I can't do a full tire rotation, and that's really the only way you can go with most of these winter tires. Okay, so I'll give you an example of what we have to do here. So this is kind of what I did here. Take the bolt, thread it in there, give it a quick little bit of a start to turn it, and of course then what I can do is I just spin that in by hand till it's all the way in, and you'll feel it when it's pretty much as tight as you can go by hand like that. This tire's already been torqued. I've got all these wheels torqued. Generally, the best process is having the wheels off the ground. So chalk your vehicle if it's on a slope, make sure that it's not gonna roll, put your e-brakes on, get most of the torque on that while it's in the air. And then I like to finish it up on the ground. I usually drive it for about 100, say 60 miles or 100 miles, and I come back and I retorque again. So I've set this torque wrench here for about, oh, I don't know, again, about 90 pounds. So I give it a pull. There, and you hear that click. And then you basically work your way star pattern right here. So then I go to the opposite side. Then I go star pattern over here. And then there's something else that's very, very important. If you want to start reliably in the wintertime, I put a new battery in here last year. You have to take this off. You have to take all this junky plastic off. But down in there, you can actually see the batteries. You can see the red plastic sheathing over there over the positive terminal. Here's a place where you can keep a charger on it. A good way to, if you need to boost or do something special like that, it's a way to access your positive terminal. Of course, here's your ground point. So you have these 2 points right here. If, in fact, you need to do some sort of charging or something, or keep it on a maintainer, those are good places. But I had to change that battery under there. Not just change the battery last year because we had weak battery problems, but I also had to do a battery test this year. I went down to a local dealer. They checked it out for me, and they have this little equipment. They lend it out to you for pennies on a dollar, or in most cases for free. I basically went on there, I connected it up, and I did a load test. I isolated one side of the battery, did a load test on the battery, and it was happy. I did an air filter earlier in the year. I didn't bother with that, but I did do an oil change. Again, I said this used about 6.5 liters for this because we have the 4MATIC version. 6.5 liters of oil right there. And the filter, which is buried down right in there. You can see the filter housing way down where my fingers are touching. I've already demonstrated that on a previous video. I'll link that video at the end, how I actually did that service on this car. But basically that's a change that has to happen. So here's a kit of some goodies that I came up with as well. I did a little sponsorship with these guys at one point. Denbig's top shelf product, battery operated air compressor. Comes with all the goodies in there. You can charge it in your car, but here it's very, very simple to operate. And this is always nice to have roadside. Now this just threads on. The beauty, it also gives you some light, so you can light up the back. Say if you're dark in the middle of the night and you can't quite see what you're doing outside, you can also activate the light. Like I can hit the light there, and you can do different types of lighting roadside, and it helps you kind of identify whether you're in trouble or not. Or if you just need a work light, this works just perfectly. So I just find that this device is one of the best tools to have around in your toolbox, or certainly having in the car. I make sure that if I'm out and about, that if I have any problems with either airing up your tire or even, of course, just staying warm, that I've got an emergency kit in the back with some extra clothes, a chocolate bar, and a roadside flare kit. So that's something I happen to get for $19 on Amazon as well. So you can get all of those little roadside emergency kits as well for pennies on the dollar. But I also got another great tool here. So if you're having problems and it's like minus 35, super cold out in your car, and you know there's juice, but it's not quite enough to start it, this here will fix your day. So you've got all the charge cables. You can charge it, again, desktop. You can charge it in your vehicle as well later on if you need to. But generally, these come with a massive capacity. I think this one here is good for 2,000 amps. They say this particular unit, they're smaller versions, but this one here can actually boost a full-size diesel truck. So something that normally has like 2 big batteries and that takes a huge amount of starting amps, this will do that. So I picked this up. As you can see, I got some broken edges. So yeah, it's taken a bit of a beating. You know, I've had some chips and pieces when it's minus 30 and you're using this. Sometimes plastic breaks, but overall it's very reliable, works perfectly. The beauty is it also tells you if you hooked it up the wrong polarity, because as soon as you hook it up, it tells you, it gives you a little fault. So it's a wonderful tool and something that I always carry around. The budget buys that I went through saved me a lot of money. I did some of the work myself. A lot of these parts I found on sale through Prime or whatever. I found the parts that I needed. Of course, as well, these wheels on Marketplace allowed me to get some great wheels for relatively cheap. How much did these cost? Well, these studs here were about $30. These wheels, these were slightly used. They only had about 3 drives on them. We bought the rims and tires all together on Facebook Marketplace for about 800 bucks. Now for that NOCO booster, that is charged about $269. And of course, the air compressor that we also featured was only about $119. We spent under $1,200. The oil service was cheap. I did about 6.5, 7 quarts of oil. We're talking probably about $100 and some there, and a filter another 40. So honestly, for $1,400, we outfitted this car. We did a service, we put new tires and skins on it, we put the bolts on there that were safe, and we did it all for ourselves, and it took an afternoon to do on the driveway. Make sure you get the right studs, the right length, that they're a ball base, make sure that they're a 5x112 Mercedes type wheel. The winter tires are unidirectional, that they have to be facing in the right direction. Make sure if you're jacking cars up, doing any winter work underneath, you're putting jack stands and you're working very safely. Other than that, I was able to save an immense amount of money just doing all this work myself on a budget at a time when we all need a break. These dealers want to charge you an extraordinary amount of money. A brand new set of wheels and tires, winter wheels at Mercedes dealer, we were quoted $4,000 for rims and tires, $4 grand. Plus all this other crap, that would have been a $500 hit. So instead, we did it ourselves. We did a little thrifty shopping and we saved a crap ton of money. Anyway, you can too as well. Don't be scared to shop around a little bit. If you have any other questions, be sure to drop it down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear it. And above all, oh, please don't forget to subscribe. And just in case you're wondering, why don't I just go to the dealer? Right there, check out that video, our dealer experience with our Toyota Camry. We got absolutely screwed. It was a scam from top to bottom. Check that video. You're going to be absolutely blown away by it. Hope to see each and every one of you real soon, everybody. Bye-bye.